Chapter 3. The Ten, Carus and Henrik, stepped quietly into the Grand Council chamber, the heart of Tantua. The towering stone walls were adorned with ancient carvings depicting centuries of dwarven history. The ceiling arched high above them, supported by grand pillars intricately designed with runes and symbols of the mountain. The flickering light from enchanted braziers cast dancing shadows across the room, giving the space a sense of timelessness. Henrik marveled at the room's beauty, but his attention soon shifted to the ten seated in a semicircle at the far end of the chamber. Each dwarf bore a unique helmet decorated with symbols that represented their role in the city's intricate hierarchy. They weren't just leaders, they were the embodiment of Tantua's very lifeblood. "They are the Ten," Carus whispered, leaning in close to Henrik as they remained near the back of the chamber. "Each one represents a faction: warriors, scholars, healers, miners, and more. They keep Tantua running." As Henrik scanned the room, he noted how the dwarves' helmets differed. Each symbol told its own story, indicating their area of responsibility. There were hammers for the smiths, scythes for the farmers, and pickaxes for the miners. The symbols were simple but powerful, reflecting the deep ties each leader had with their respective domain. A dwarf with a wide chest and stern expression stood first. His helmet bore the crossed pickaxes of the miners. "Delrim," Karas whispered. "King Diganger," Delrim began, his voice gravelly from years spent in the mines. "We've hit another vein of mithril in the lower depths, but the tunnels are unstable. If we continue digging, we risk collapsing the lower city. The miners are concerned." Henrik watched as Diganger nodded gravely, but did not immediately respond. The Dwarf King was known for his patience and his ability to consider all angles before speaking. Irunthia, the healer, whose helmet displayed an intricate pattern of vines and a staff, rose next. She spoke with a calm yet commanding voice. "Our stores of healing herbs are running low, Diganger. With the increased injuries from the recent cave-ins, we must gather more from the surface, but with the unkind roaming the forests, the herbalists are afraid to venture too far." Karas leaned toward Henrik and whispered, "She leads the healers and herbalists. Without her, our people would suffer in more ways than one." Henrik nodded, noting the seriousness in Erunthia's tone. The city faced challenges far greater than he had anticipated. Next, Geowasser, the master blacksmith, stood up, his helmet adorned with the symbol of a hammer and anvil. His lips curled into a wry smile, and his tone was laced with sarcasm as he addressed the council. "Ah, if we're so concerned with health and crops, perhaps we should start forging plows instead of swords. But should the unkind come knocking at our door, I'd like to see those herbs keep them at bay." Karas snorted softly. "Geowacer is brilliant, but as sharp with his tongue as he is with his blade." Henrik smirked, appreciating the blacksmith's dry humor, though he could feel the tension in the room. The ten weren't just discussing trivial matters. These were decisions that would impact every dwarf in Tantua. Varlock, the head of the farmers, who bore a helmet with the symbol of a scythe and wheat, stood next. His face was drawn with worry. "The terraces are not yielding as much as they once did. We're seeing signs of soil exhaustion. If we do not replenish the land soon, we will face shortages in the coming seasons." Varlock's words brought murmurs from the others, but before they could respond, Ithara, the scholar, stood up. Her helmet, emblazoned with a book surrounded by arcane symbols, gleamed in the firelight. "Knowledge is just as essential as food or weapons," she said in a measured voice. "Our libraries have been neglected. If we do not preserve the teachings of our ancestors and invest in education, we may lose more than just crops. Our future will be in jeopardy." Karas whispered, Ithara is the keeper of our knowledge. She knows the importance of history and learning, but not everyone in this room shares her priorities. As Ithara sat down, the air in the chamber grew tense. Dwarves of different factions exchanged glances, weighing the issues before them. Henrik leaned toward Chorus and whispered, "It seems like they've got their hands full." "They always do," Chorus replied. "But it's these debates that keep Tantua running. Every decision affects everyone." Finally, Loelat, the head of the warriors, rose. His helmet, decorated with two crossed axes, marked him as the leader of the city's military. His eyes were sharp, and his posture exuded strength. "We need more soldiers," Loelat said, his voice like steel. "If the unkind make it past Kipt, we'll be next. We can't wait until they're at our gates. We need to bolster our defenses now." Henrik's ears perked up at the mention of Kipt, and Karas seemed to notice. Loelat's right. The threat is growing. As the 10 discussed these issues, Henrik couldn't help but feel the weight of Tantua's struggles. They weren't just a hidden kingdom. They were a fragile system, carefully balanced by the wisdom of their leaders. Diganje sat in silence, listening as each of his advisors presented their cases. His yellow eyes gleamed in the low light as he considered the reports. The air was thick with tension, but the Dwarf King remained calm, his thoughts clearly running deep. Karas took this moment to lean closer to Henrik. Each of the 10 plays a crucial role. They balance each other out, sometimes through heated debate, but always with the goal of keeping Tantua strong. Henrik nodded, absorbing the gravity of the situation. He realized that his plea for aid was going to come at a time when the dwarves themselves were facing monumental decisions. Finally, Diganje raised his hand, calling for silence. The chamber fell still, and all eyes turned to the Dwarf King. He spoke slowly, with the weight of leadership in every word. "We face many challenges, and all are vital to the survival of our people. But now, more than ever, we must prioritize. The unkind are on the move. If we do not address the external threat, our internal matters will become irrelevant." Henrik's heart pounded as he listened, knowing that soon he would have to make his own plea. But for now, the 10 continued to debate, their words shaping the future of Tantua, and perhaps the entire world.